Welcome back, everyone, to the Stay Introverted podcast. I am your co-host, Jay Coleman.
And I'm your other co-host, Steph Laffey.
And we are back after a little bit of a break. But as always, want to take a moment, or both, to say thank you for following us on this podcasting journey. As always, we definitely love you guys and appreciate you guys.
We do. we missed coming on here and recording, so this is going to be fun.
Yep. And I'm excited, Steph, because we actually have a very special guest on the show, someone that we've been trying to get on for a while. So I'm happy about it, that we finally made it happen. I want to introduce our good friend, Mr. Joseph Rubelli. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. How are you guys? Thank you for having me.
We are awesome. Thank you for being here.
So a fun fact about Joseph is we actually met. So I met you, I connected with you through a mutual friend, Rachel.
Yeah.
And then you actually came to our first podcasting event back in January. So we got to meet you in person, which was so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I think ever since then, I've seen you hosting your own event. So we'll have to get into that.
Yeah, it was amazing. I literally came to the event that you guys hosted. And at the beginning of 2024, I set myself a goal to go to more in-person events. And we managed to meet up that time. And then I kind of gained the confidence to go to more events. And, being an introvert, but also an extrovert at the same time, depending on the day, it does take a little bit of pushing into to get things out of, when it comes to events, I like the events, but I usually get a little bit of anxiety when it comes to, I don't find a location, I don't know anybody, or you go alone, you don't have anyone to talk to, and then you either have a situation where everybody wants to talk to you, you have a situation nobody talks to you. So it's sort of like it was a little bit strange, but I am happy I came out of the shell because I did so many events this year, and I am still focusing on a lot of in-person events. It has been great for business, it has been great for networking, and it has been great for confidence. So 3 major things that we all have to work on. So it's great.
I love that. I love that so much.
Awesome. And it's interesting because it kind of seemed to me like most of the people there identified as introverts. It kind of seemed nowhere. So it was pretty cool to see, a bunch of introverts coming together to network, make new connections. It was definitely a great time.
Yeah. It's interesting because I think I became more of an introvert ever since I started working online, because you get used to talk to people and have conversation in a different way. And, I come from a corporate job where I was very much always on. I used to work on sales, I used to work in marketing, I used to hold meetings in person, and I used to speak in front of a big audience or a big group of people in the office. And, you kind of get used to that in a way that you almost go into autopilot. Actually, without almost, you do go in autopilot. So you don't trigger that introvert side of yourself, if you will, because it's something that you do every day and you're used to it. When you're doing something occasionally, that's where all the things come together, and it starts, and that little voice in your brain that talks way too much sometimes starts to give you self-doubt that you shouldn't have. So I feel like that was something I experienced last year, and I felt like I was in some sort of a rabbit hole. Like I was very good at doing everything online and doing meeting, on Zoom, and we changed the way we work. I run a marketing agency in Jersey City. My team is all remote. I, work with clients all over the US and in the UK, which is where I moved from, even though I'm Italian and I was born in Italy. I moved to England when I was 20, and then I moved to the US a couple of years ago after 10 years in England. But what is interesting to me is you get so used to work remotely that you kind of have to dust off your social skills when you go in person. I don't know if you guys relate to that, but I feel like subconsciously you forget the social interaction etiquette, if you will, and you kind of have to force yourself to get out there to brush it off and really dust it off a little bit because it's there. It's just that we haven't used it as much as we used to.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Because the minimal social skills that I have, like just speaking for myself, I definitely had to essentially rebuild those after kind of being at home for the last 4 years now. I've been working from home basically really since the pandemic, but I'm very much an introvert, so those social skills again, with what little I had to actually get out there and try to rebuild. Steph, how do you feel about that?
I feel like it honestly depends on the day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just being completely transparent here. It depends on the day. Like it depends on, cause like Monday, for example, I work from home on Mondays, so my social skills are all right. Um, Wednesday when I'm in the office, I find that like I'm a lot more like I don't know if it's just because I'm like in the thick of the work week or if it's like because, I've got the weekend is not really coming up yet and I've already had a couple days or maybe it's because I'm actually in person, but it depends on the day, it depends on the environment, it depends on my mood, it depends on a whole lot of things. Um, but I feel like my introversion and my social skills, they kind of change.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you. I feel like it goes day by day. You have some days, and I noticed this ever since I got diagnosed with ADHD last year in June. I started to take a closer look to my behavior to understand my patterns a bit better, to work within my neurodiversity rather than against it. So what happened was your extrovert part of your personality gets triggered by your level of dopamine, which is what makes you very excited and super energetic. And when you have ADHD, you do not produce enough of it. So you will go through those phases where you have days where you have a high level of dopamine. So it's the day that you call everybody, you talk to everybody, you are very active on comments, you probably go even live on social media, then you go to an event, and then you go to meet your friends, and then you text that friend that you haven't talked to for a while. And then the next day, you just literally don't want to see anyone. You just want to be alone. Actually, put your phone in sleep mode for a whole day or do not disturb, and you don't get any notification. Like my best friend lives in England, and he says to me, "It's really funny because you are one of the most active people I know on social media, but one of the most difficult people to reach because you never answer your phone." And
Yeah.
I said, "Yeah, that's true because I don't have a notification on my phone." I said, "Why not?" I said, "Because the phone is controlling me when I have notification." I read a book over the weekend called Focus, and it's about teaching you focus as a skill rather than a gift. People think that focus is some sort of a gift you either have it or you don't. But in the book, this psychotherapist is talking about how focus really is more of a skill. It's like a muscle. You need to train it. And he's talking about that hit of dopamine that you get when you get a notification on your phone. You have to reply to that person straight away. So I don't want to be dependent on a device. So that's why I don't have any notification. And I have different setting on my phone for social media and etc. So there's like a moment at 8 o'clock at night where everything is switched off. And I only get calls from people that for example, my mother who lives abroad, something that is really important. If the sky is falling, I have to be available. But other than that, it's not something that I do. I like to have control over that because we do spend a lot of time on the screen, and it's very important to be mindful of that and being able to, be present as much as possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I don't think I've ever put like any sort of do not disturb or I guess night mode or quiet mode for any of my phones or social accounts. But I am definitely not the easiest person to get in touch with, which is it's also interesting because I'm actually I feel that I'm very easy to talk to. I'm just very hard to get. I'm just very hard
But that's the
to
thing.
get a hold of.
They're
Yeah.
easy people they're very hard people to reach.
Yeah,
Which
like
is, in a way,
once you
makes
got me, once you
them
got me, I'm
exactly.
there. But yeah, it's
But
just
in a
like
way, that
getting.
makes it more interesting because that means, if the person does reach out more than once and they really want to talk to you, if they only do it once, that means they were not interested in the first place.
Yeah.
Right.
But
It's so
it's
fun. Like my friends are all like, "Oh my god! Like I texted you like 3 days ago. Like, are you dead?" And I'm like, "I'm here, I guess. Fine." It's hard though because like there's so much going on and like I don't know. What advice do you have, Joseph, for people who they're involved in the online space and I know that you've got a pretty active social life and you've got a lot of stuff going on. So how do you hold space for your people and find a way to balance like all these relationships while also honoring your introverted self and staying focused on your work?
It's a great question. And I tell you what happened. I subconsciously surrounded myself with people that are very similar to me. So I don't have any friend that will be calling me out if I don't reply to a text, because there is a very strong chance they probably won't reply to a text either if they are at that moment of being introverted. So I have a friend of mine, we go out and what we do, we put things on the calendar. So we have things to look forward to. And it's exciting, but we cannot plan things ahead a little bit. So we have something that we are excited about, but we do text, like for example, I text my friend every other day or maybe 3 times a week. We do groups on the phone, so we make sure that we send like an emoji or something. I have people I speak to every day, and that's one thing. But when it comes to friends, I have friends in England. My best friend, we don't talk every day. We talk every few months. It's because everyone is busy. But then we make sure that when we do, we really give time to each other in a way that we have, a strong conversation. We talk about different things. We have all the points that we want to cover. So it's good. And I think it's better. I am not very good at, sending the good morning message every day. It's just not me. I never been that person. I find that quite difficult to keep up. And because I feel like I spend a lot of time on my phone, I try to make an effort to see the people in person if I can. So I'm not one of those people that does a lot of calls or stuff like that. I try to arrange something. Like that's the best thing. With people in New York, it's easy. With people that are not in New York, it's always about traveling. We try to meet somewhere, and that's the best way. But my advice, if you're someone who struggles to keep up social life because of your business, and when you run your own business or you're working for a company that takes a lot of your time, it's not that you don't have the time, you don't have the mind for it. And I think that's like sometimes you're mentally tired, and mentally tired, it's a state that doesn't really work out to be fixed with just sleep. You need that own time. So you need to make sure that you have that balance. You maybe want to pick those 2 to 3 days per week that you're going to be socializing. For example, for me, it's usually Friday and Thursdays. And sometimes I do Saturday, but sometimes I do maybe a Tuesday. Tuesday, Thursdays, and Fridays. I don't like to go out on the weekend. I like to chill on the weekend. I like to relax and decompress on the weekend. So that's my me time usually. I switch off. I'm not on my phone. I go to a museum. I do something in person. I walk the dog. I try to keep, I'm a very big fan of routines. So I try to keep the routine. So if the person is not available in those 3 days, I will probably see the person the next week. Obviously, there are exceptions. If the person is visiting or something, it's a different story. But I try to keep the schedule for socializing quite the same, so that I know that those days of the week, usually for me, it's like a Thursday because I'm kind of ready for the weekend, but it's not weekend yet. Or maybe a Wednesday when I had a long week already. It's like Monday and Tuesday are really full on usually for me. So Wednesday, I'm like ready for margarita. So usually I just want to go out and I'm like, you know what? Let's go out. And my partner is the same. It's very ambiverted. So we kind of work in that way. We're very similar. And sometimes I'm the person that reminds him to text his friends about, oh, you have this person. But I am terrible with birthday. If it wasn't for Facebook, which is the only reason why I have it, it's because I have the calendar, I do not remember people's birthday. I do not put them on the calendar. I am so ADHD on that. It's just terrible. And then I would be one of those people that text you like a week later. But thankfully, I only have a handful of people that really care about their birthday, so I'm lucky like that. So that's good.
Yeah, but you're still right about having to or needing to be in the proper like headspace or energy space just to like reply to people, because it I don't think people really understand just how much energy it takes for introverts to socialize and to keep in touch with people or give back to people. Like I have people that say, "Hey Jay, did you see my text?" Like, yeah, I saw your text. It just I'm not in the I'm not gonna I can't answer it right then and there because I'm not always in a proper headspace, or I don't always have the right energy to actually give back to somebody. And the thing is, most of the time, I think I probably have a good idea of what I want to say in response. But it's like I'm thinking of, okay, well, is this going to lead to an actual extended conversation because I am not ready for that, or or is this person just going to take what I said and go away? I don't know, and I don't always feel like taking that risk, so I'll just wait a day or 5 until I'm in a proper headspace, and
I'm the same way.
I'll respond. And it's not that I'm not trying to do anything malicious, or like I'm not trying to blow people off. It's just sometimes I just don't have it, and I don't think people who aren't introverted or don't really appreciate energy like that just know just how draining how draining it can be, just texting somebody back like that. It can take a lot out of you.
Absolutely.
I'd rather not respond until I can be present in what I'm saying and like actually like be able to focus on what I'm responding to you and how I'm answering. So like if I'm not in the headspace to answer, especially if I have a lot of messages that I need to answer, not just like yours, it might take me a day or two, but you know that when you're getting a response from me, I'm like completely 100% there with you.
And
For
it
like
goes down
2
to
seconds it takes to
focus.
respond.
It goes down to be present, and I think that's a big thing. You see, and I don't know if that happens to you guys. You go to a restaurant and you see a group of people, a group of friends, and they go for dinner, but everybody is on their phone. And for me, I am one of those people. If I'm coming for dinner with you, I will be present. I will listen to you. I will give you, I want to talk to you. That's our moment to socialize. I don't have to be on my phone. I don't need to be on Instagram. I don't need to be on social media. I don't need to text that person. It's just not the way I operate. I divide. So when I'm alone, I love to be on my phone because it's just a way for me to pass time. I reply to people if I have to, or sometimes I just don't. And I also, one of my favorite things to do, I put an audiobook on or I put a meditation music and I just chill and I try to not think about anything. My brain is usually very active. So for me to do that, it actually takes a skill. So I think I agree with you. It does take, you want to be present in a way that feels purposeful, not just, being present for the sake of it. And one of my biggest challenges with that, it's usually cultural. When I talk to my friends in Italy, Italians are usually very much on it when it comes to these things. There is a very big culture, talking to people every day, texting people every day, being present every day. I never been part of this club. It's never been my thing. So I always get called out by friends. And I used to say to people, it's just not the way I am. It's just not me. Also, I live in a different country. I live 5,000 miles away from you. There is a time zone difference. And I am very busy. I have things to do, and I'm not on my phone all day for socializing. I am on my phone to work. And they're two different things to me. So it's just like, for me, I try to keep things quite separate. I like to keep structure on what I do because that's what helps me to be present in a way I want to be based on what I have to do, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. I love that. Yeah, I'm the same way. I mean, you'll never find, well, I don't want to say never because that would be, you'll usually not find me on the phone when I'm with my friends or family, or like especially at dinner, or when we're at a party or doing something. One, because I can't hear in general. So like if I'm distracted by my phone, I can't read your lips. Um, so that's a problem. But two, like I also have ADD, so I need to like be able to fully pay attention to whatever the person's saying. And three, because it's rude.
Oh,
Um,
it's very rude. I
it's
hate
so
that.
rude. Yeah. So like if I'm not answering your messages, it's because I'm doing something that honestly is, not to sound obnoxious, but more important than responding to your message right now, at least to me.
No, it's true. It's
Um,
priority, and it's just
yeah, and like your message is very important to me, but I will get to it when I'm in the headspace to be fully focused on whatever it is that you're saying and whatever it is that I want to say back.
no, I agree.
Yeah. So
Don't
Joseph,
like it,
you
text someone else.
so Joseph, you have your own business. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. I am the founder and CEO of Rubelli Digital. It is a creative marketing agency. We do consulting, coaching, and social media services, as well as advertising. And I started this after a career in corporate. I was in sales to begin with, and then I was a social media manager for a beauty brand. I worked as a brand manager for an American beauty brand as well. So I had many different roles and I wore many different hats. And when I left my job, I started to do some consulting and I was working part-time somewhere else. And then I also wasn't ready yet to be independent fully. So what I did during COVID, I took a role as a social media director for a creative agency, for a marketing agency in England. And what happened was I realized the structure of the agency and I realized I was very good at what I was doing. I was managing a big team and I managed people for many years before. Working in an agency gave me the excitement of working on projects, and it was something just that I thought was interesting and new and I didn't really experience before because I always was marketing in-house, which is very different. So in 2020, at the end of 2020, I started Ready Digital. I had the vision of creating a team that was fully remotely working from all over. And I wanted to also have an approach that was a bit different. So I wanted to connect all the elements of marketing, not only social media. So our core is conversion marketing and creating a very strong marketing ecosystem that actually bring you leads and sale. And my core is content marketing, and through content marketing, how to take your prospect and potential client from discovery to purchase. So I've been in business now in the US for a couple of years, and before that it was a year and a half in England. And now I started alone, and then I now have a team of 5, which is very exciting. So we have 5 people. I have an operation manager, a brand manager, a copywriter, a graphic designer, a podcast editor, a video editor as well. So, and then we have a project manager as well for our project. So it's a nice team. We are tiny. We are a small company. But we are very busy. So it's very exciting.
That's
Nice.
amazing. And I imagine like being an introvert, like having these people that can take those hats from you so that you don't have to wear them all has been probably a relief because you've been able to focus on your special sauce.
Absolutely. And I started to scale my business with a virtual assistant, and actually 2 years in the game, I thought about having a service in the business that will help small business owners to be placed with the right virtual assistant to make sure that you have the support that you need in the tasks that you really lack doing and you don't like to do. So we started this new service. It just started recently, like a few weeks ago. And we had quite a lot of requests because of it, because it just really allowed people to replace stress with strategy, which is our tagline. But it works very well because you allow the person, as you said, to focus on what they do best, to focus on what I call their superpowers. Everybody's great to do something and challenged to do something else. So it's really important to acknowledge that and see how can you work with it rather than against it. It's very, very important. So the way I can support business to do it, that's, through different stages. And yeah, that's what we do. And it's really exciting. I love the team that I've been able to put together. They're great talents. They're amazing. They're very, very invested in the vision of the business. And I'm a very transparent business owner. I like to have a meeting with them every Monday, walk them through what happened the week before, walk them through what I'm working on. I am the person in charge of business development and the vision of the brand. So I, would be the person more focused on going to events in person, talking to podcasts, having the vision of the brand out there, making sure that what we are taking at Rubelli Digital is, showcased in the right way. And then the team would be in charge of the execution of some of these things. I am the founder of strategies. Every strategy for every client comes through me first, and then the team execute the parts of the strategy. So that's how we work. But that works really well because it really plays on my strength. I love sales. I love creativity. I love to be able to combine the two together to create something that is exciting, captivating, and also converting. And I think that's what I do best. And then the team is really on board within the vision. They like to know how many clients we go, or we have a call with it. For example, if we have a call for a potential client, we're working on the proposal, everybody gets really excited. Everybody brings an idea. Everybody brings a perspective. And that's very important. That's how you work as a startup. You need to be surrounded by people that are seeing what you're seeing, and often seeing better than you can. Because I always say that it's very important to hire people that sometimes are smarter than you, because that's how they get you to where you want to be. And of course, I think giving that credit to people and making sure that they are in an environment that they feel empowered and appreciated is very important. I make sure that every one of them feels empowered to do what they have to do, but without being overshadowed by the brand. I want them to be able to have their personality, and every one of them has in a certain way, and it's really nice.
That's so cool. Yeah, I aspire to get to your level where I can focus on my zone of genius as opposed to everything that has to be done in the business. Like me personally, I think I'm more of a creative, so I like to thinking of new ideas and stuff for design. But
so am I. I like creativity, and I think sometimes that's why I started last year I hired a client relationship person, because as I said, if I am not able to keep in touch with my friends, forget about keeping in touch with clients on emails. I'm terrible. Mm-hmm. So what happened was I hired someone to be in charge of the follow-up with clients, with our coaching clients, make sure that there was a very strong communication going on. And then this person, I trained this person, and I really invested my time on this person, and this person became our operation manager. She's now basically my number 2 in the business. She's my right hand in the business. She does everything, and she's the person I will go to for anything that is, if I want to know what's happening within the agency within a second, she would be literally on it. She's like super on it, and everyone in the team works really well with her. She's a great person to manage other people as well. So I do manage all the team, and I always have to have the final say on everything, but she will be the person that understands the vision the best. And, I also haven't scaled my business overnight. It took a long time. My graphic designer, which worked with me now for 2.5 years, almost 3 years. So it took a long time. And then, my operation manager worked with me for a year. So I didn't want to scale the business in a way that was way too fast, because I don't like to give people a job on 1 month and then get rid of them the next month. It's just not my style. I like to be cautious and wise, because I like to invest in people in the way they invest in me, because I think it's a win-win. Reciprocity is a big skill in business. You need to be able to get what you give, and that often is converted in 3 things: talent, time, or money. So if you cannot offer one of them, you need to be able to offer the other 2. Usually, if you're a startup business, you probably cannot offer a lot of money, but if you're able to offer a specific type of environment or a specific vision that you want the team to be part of, you need to find someone that believes in that, and you will find the right people, and it does happen. And of course, there needs to be a level of comfort for everyone, financially or whatever. But it's just, it does take one step after the other. It's not an overnight thing. And often what we do when we're working on a project or we have a vision, we do compare our stage 0 with someone else stage 10. And that's a big problem, because comparison is never healthy. But when you do it with someone that is not at the same stage as you are, and they've been in the business for longer, or they've been having more money to invest, it's not a healthy comparison for you, because you're not at the same level, not because you're less than them, but just because they started further and they started before you. So that doesn't make you bad. It just makes you in a different stage, and that's totally okay. So it's very important to take one step at a time.
Well, thanks for that. I'm trying. Definitely.
I think that's a really important distinction. Like, it's not about you. It's just about, wanting to work with people that are not only aligned with your vision, but that are going to help you move the needle forward in your business, while also moving the needle forward in their own lives. Like, and if you don't have that, then the balance is going to get thrown off. Like, there's just so many opportunities for issues to arise. So I love that distinction.
Yeah, and it takes time to find the right people to work with as well. I had a partner in my business before. She was a great person, and she's a great friend. Business-wise, we're just not right for each other. We are just not a great match. And the difficult is, she was very creative and so was I, but when you're in business, you need someone who is more operational and someone who is more creative. You can't be too creative together when it comes to the business side, because you're just going to bounce and you're just going to hit heads, and it's just not going to work. So you live and learn, and I learned that, and it just hasn't been, we started another project together and we just closed it because it just wasn't possible. It just wasn't working. And it was like, you got to a point where you're thinking, okay, how much of my time am I investing in this? How much am I getting back? Time is a very limited resource. We need to make sure that we invest in time wisely in something that we know is going to bring us something back. And what that is, you decide. But it has to be something that you feel proud of. And with that project, I just didn't feel completely aligned. There was an ick, and so I came out of it. And we also had a podcast that was really successful. We had a podcast for almost 3 years. We have 10,000 subscribers, and it was a very difficult part because we sort of stopped working together before the podcast finished, and it was 6 months away. We still did the podcast as a way for us to ultimately have a point of connection, and I thought it was interesting to see where I was with my business and where she was with her business. But then we got to a point where I was just like, it doesn't feel aligned. It was the Digital Bosses podcast. I was like, this brand doesn't feel as anymore. And even the listeners started to, understand it. And people are very, 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 very aware of everything. Your audience knows things. Like, someone came to me and went, oh, why is she not on this episode? And, we started to do episodes separate, and then we started to do it together. And it just wasn't working. And I was like, when your listeners started to talk a lot, when there was a lot of noise around, I just didn't feel like it was right for any one of us. So we decided to close it. And it was a very difficult decision because I was very, the podcast did really well. We had a big audience. We had sponsorship. We had revenue through the show. We took the podcast to the next level. And now, funny enough, with my clients, if they want to do a podcast, I take them from 0 to hero because I did it before and it worked. But when it comes to that, it's difficult because you need to leave. It's a revenue stream for you, so you need to close it, and it's just not easy. But you have to do it because it's just not going to work over. It's not going to work the long way. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah. Can you, if you're comfortable, can you kind of go into more about what that, I guess, conversation was like? Leading up to the decision to end the podcast. because everyone starts a podcast. Everyone wants to be on the podcast, but we don't always hear about, hey, this might not work, or we might need to end this for whatever reason. I don't think a lot of people really.
Oh, Jay, are you preparing to break up with me or something?
No, Steph, we're locked in. Don't worry. I'm not. I don't send subliminals. All right, that's
We're
not
turning this into a gossip moment. Wait a second.
All right, we. I mean, that's for a long haul. If we got a problem, we're gonna figure it out together. Don't worry. So we definitely locked in.
Okay.
there are no sneak shots, no subliminals, no subtweets, none of that right now.
And he left with a tweet, former ex former Twitter.
Yeah.
Elon Musk knew and she did not.
Well, she did. It was the last to know.
I know.
But yeah, not a lot of people talk, appreciate it or talk about, hey, this, as well as we get along, as much as we see eye to eye on certain things, this might not work out.
Yeah. Great question. So it went down to three things. Number one, it was the production part. Often people do not realize how much it takes to produce a podcast. There is a lot of editing going on. At the time, we didn't have an editor. We had an editor that quit. And before we had an editor hired, I used to edit the show completely. I used to do all the editing. I used to be in charge of connecting with the person. I was talking with the sponsors. I was creating the content for the sponsor. There was a lot of my time invested in this. And when we had an editor, it was easier because I would send the show to the person, he will do it, and it would be fine. And so I could concentrate to the other things. So we started to plan the season. We always will have a meeting and plan everything. And she was busy in another project. And so the way we worked together, I suggested and I said, how many hours per week are we willing to put into this project? We need to break it down into time because time is valuable. Time is money. We need to make sure. And then my business started to take off really quickly. So I was actually busier than I was before. So I had to really look at my schedule and say, I don't have time to do this. I need to make time to do this. So I want to make sure that we both make time together because my time is valuable as much as yours. So we couldn't really agree on that. And what happened was the production was challenging. The niche and the industry was different because she started a new business that was marketing beauty brands and fashion brands. And we had a community of service-based business and solopreneurs and consultants. So there was a moment of creating a new audience, if you will. And that was difficult because we already had an audience that was listening to the show. And it wasn't, to me, a smart decision to try to retarget the audience because that would mean that we would have lost the sponsors because the sponsors pay to be talking to a particular audience that we were talking to, and then if you don't talk to them anymore, you lose the sponsors. So I think the way I can describe is that sometimes marketing is not what you like, it's what works. And if you sometimes there are some things that might be 100% convinced in terms of topic, but you kind of have, if you have some people investing money behind you, you kind of have to make sure they are clients and you need to treat them as such. It's important. So there was, we were not agreeing on the guests, we were not agreeing on certain things. And to me, I said, I kind of took I took the initiative and I said, it's the beginning of the year. We have a very big meeting coming up with all the team. And at this point, we're not just me and her anymore. It's a whole team working together. So we need to make sure that the people are allocating the time and these people get paid at the end of the month. So we need to make sure that we utilize them, and the utilization of the agency, it's profitable because, you don't want to have people sitting down doing nothing. You want to have people in a way that actually are moving the task along so that you can actually get things done. So I sort of put together a meeting where I sort of give a role to everybody within the team so that me and her could focus on different things. And I sort of took initiative and I said, you know what? I felt like at the end of last year, there was a lot going on in my personal life anyway, and so was in her life. So we had a lot of challenges personally. So we were quite stressed for other things. And I said, this is the opportunity with the new year to really think about if this is the right choice for you. And I said, I want to make sure that there is, but I want to make sure that you are aligned, because once we start this, we're not going to stop 2 months later. And the podcast was also connected to a new product, which was supposed to be a membership. And so it was a membership program, a membership website, something that was a paid product. So the podcast was the marketing channel for that. So there was a lot of work that was going to have to start. And I didn't want to go 3 or 6 weeks in and stop everything, because that would have been an enormous waste of everybody's time, which I don't think is very professional. So what happened was I had this conversation before, and it was a bit uncomfortable because, there is a friendship as well. So it has been rather difficult to go through it. But I kind of needed to do that because I knew that was going to happen at some point. And, when I don't want to lose my credibility, and I don't want to lose my professionalism, especially when there are other people involved, when there are other clients involved and sponsors, because it's really easy, it's really hard to get sponsors on a show. Once you have them, you want to keep them. And I managed to keep everybody as clients of my agency, even if we don't have the podcast anymore. I converted everything into content for social media, but that takes a long time. So you want to, and to me, I felt like there was an element of, she's supposed to be a co-host, but it was supposed to be more of a partnership, but it was actually like she was coming on as a guest, really. So it was just not working. And, she did really well ever since we stopped the show. So I'm really happy, because that was the right decision. And this is a conversation not to throw shade, but it's about understanding what's happening, and sometimes it just doesn't work, and that's fine. It's not a problem. It's just sometimes things are not aligned, and that's great. That allows you to move forward and to see other opportunities. And that's what she did. She's focusing now on talking to new moms. She's a new mom as well. It just feels right for her, and it just wasn't feeling right for her at the time. So that's great.
Oh, that's awesome. I love when things work out like that. And everybody, it's goodbyes and endings are not the easiest for sure. But it sounds like the two of you have both found this to be the best decision for both of you. So
I wish her the best, and I think she is a great person, a remarkable woman, and I feel like she will do really, really well. I just think we have a very different vision in business and what we want. So, and ever since we stopped working together, actually things went better for both of us, because we actually went down to focus on what we do best, going back to the first part of the conversation. So that's great. And for me, I don't think my journey with podcasting is finished. I think I'm going to start a new show probably in September. I haven't quite decided. I am talking on a few projects that I want to have. So I have a specific vision and idea that I want to bring on. So we'll see. And okay. The way podcasting is changed is also is going from an audio platform to a multimedia platform now, because every podcast is video and audio. But what I do produce podcasts at Rubelli Digital, because we produce a couple. And it's brilliant because we do the editing, we do the concept, we look for the sponsorship, we do everything for the person, but I'm not the person on the show. So that's the best part, because I can actually use all my skills of negotiation that I did before, but I don't have to be on the show. So it's actually easier for me in a way. So so I still am involved in the podcast world, just in a different way.
We might have to hit you up about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you are absolutely right. I don't think people really appreciate just how much time and effort and work goes into creating a podcast. It's not just two people getting on the mic and talking. It does. So, Steph and I we're still kind of starting out in our journey, but we are at some point looking forward to hopefully building our own village of people to help us. Because it's a lot of work, particularly when you have a whole life outside of the podcast. You have to figure out a way to make things fit in the sign
Exactly.
proper
And
priorities.
to me, is also about when I work with clients is to make them understand, and that's why we decided to do this service in the agency where we help creators with podcasting, because it's just, it's very overwhelming. So, for example, we are present from the recording to, we will go through the script together. We will go to the recording. When the person is recording, will highlight what I believe should become a reel or a YouTube part or a YouTube short or whatever. So at the end of the recording, the person goes and I have all the materials and we send it over to our production team and they do it. And it's just a very streamlined way. And it just makes the life a hell of easier for the person because you don't have to worry about it. And it's also nicer to be able to brainstorm and structure a concept of an episode with someone that isn't on the show but is actually a listener, because I would be obviously listening to you if you're recording, and I would say, actually, this could work better. I think it's great. I love this new thing that we started doing, and it's just brilliant because it allows me to not only see different style of podcasts, because everybody can do podcasts, but the way I always say this, everybody does podcasts, not everybody does podcasts well. So that's where the things are different. And
Right.
so there is an art to do podcasts, and I feel you guys have a very cool format, and I think it works really well for you, and I think it's brilliant. So, and that's what makes it interesting. It's something that people can relate to, so people can take an approach, take a perspective, walk away with value, but it's also entertaining, which I think is very important.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Thank you for that. Yeah, so I think that, you're the third podcast producer that I've spoken to now in the last week. And I feel like this is a sign that the path that we should probably consider exploring in the near future. Take our podcast to the next level, because
Hit me out.
I think that there's definitely we have a lot of, and I'm just gonna gas myself up, NJ. I think that we have something really special here, and I think that I want to take it to the next level. So, sorry, Jay, I don't know if this is new to you, but FYI. But yeah, I like what you're saying is really resonating right now, and I definitely think that we're gonna have to hit you up in the future.
I think you guys have a great opportunity to create a very cool ecosystem within the show, and I can see this becoming, many different things. The podcast would be the way in; it would be the top of the funnel, but then there would be other things that I believe you guys should work on to really maximize the opportunity to, convert that attention into retention. And I think I have a few ideas, but we can talk about it after the show if you want.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
We're definitely going to have to hit you up after the show to talk about some things.
Absolutely, yeah. It would be. I love the show, and I listen to you guys. So I actually been thinking about it on my own, because sometimes it's interesting because sometimes I get approached by people, sometimes people approach me. Sometimes I approach them. Sorry, that's what I meant. And it's just sometimes if there is a show or something that I like and I listen to and I have a perspective or an angle or something, an idea, I would be like, oh wait, have you thought about that? Maybe that could be something you could discuss. So and that's usually the best way when you're already passionate about the brand. That's the way forward.
Awesome. Look at that. Introverts making connections.
There we go.
That's what I live for. And as I always tell our guests, you're not just on an episode, you're in the staff meeting. So we get taking care of business, taking care of business as well as content. So that's how
exactly. I love that.
This is where we make all of our plans, it all happens on the podcast. So.
Exactly, and our audience is here for the journey. It's an entire workshop.
It's true.
It's good. Hack.
Yes. Exactly. We're thinking in real time.
Exactly. So Joseph, this has been amazing. We've loved having you, and I know that I'm gonna definitely see you in person. Hopefully again this year.
Yeah.
And we have to definitely chat offline, like immediately about all of what we just talked about.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
before we let you go, is there any like last words of wisdom that you kind of want to share with our introverts here?
I think if you are someone who is very introverted and feel that this part of your personality is challenging your creativity, that often happens because, you know, we live in a time and place where a lot of the creative work that you have to put out there, you kind of have to be in front of it. And that can be very scary. I want you to think about what is your idea, and try to put out what you want to put out without worrying too much about the outcome, and just enjoy the process, because the process is the really fun part. And you will be surprised if you are able to communicate with passion and excitement what you are looking to do. You will be surprised how many people will listen.
Awesome.
I love that so much. And like, I just to add to that really quickly, like I jumped into podcasting with that exact mentality that you just said. You know, don't worry about the outcome, just enjoy the process.
Have fun,
and
yeah.
I fell in love with it. And like, just because I was showing up out of passion, it just became something that I was obsessed with. And now it's something that I'm kind of pursuing like more seriously because I enjoy it so much. So I love that you said that. I think that's so important.
And another thing I want to add before I go is that when you start something new, there is an element of criticism, and there is a voice on you that is telling you things that really are not there. They're just thoughts that are just not there. They're not present. So we are very good at being the worst haters of ourselves when we start something new. But if you're able to replace criticism in your mind with humor and have fun, the game is changed completely. And I can guarantee you this apply to everything within the creative world, from video creation to podcasting to writing. If you're able to replace that criticism that you have in your head, that voice that tells you that you're not good enough, with just a very good level of humor. And, you know, if you're making a mistake, just laugh about it. Just have fun around the process. I can tell you, you are taking off your shoulder a huge amount of weight, and it's huge, the difference that makes. And when I started doing that a couple of years ago, I started to enjoy what I do 1,000 times more. And it just makes a huge difference. It makes you passionate and it makes you motivated every day, which is very difficult to be.
That's awesome. Okay. Thank you so much for that. And
you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for yes. Thank you for stopping by the podcast, dropping some good marketing gems. We definitely appreciate it. Before we let you go, do you have anything that you want to plug? You know, where can people find you on the net, off the net, if you want to go that far?
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, you can find me at Joseph Rubelli on Instagram, which is where I am the most active. You can go to my website, www.rubellidigital.com, if you want to check out my agency service. You can have a free consultation with me, no strings attached, if you just want to have a chat, if you have some curiosity about your brand. And I also have a free masterclass, which is about how to take your audience from click to conversion. It's completely free. It comes directly to your inbox. And I will send you guys the link to put on the notes of the show so you guys can access. And it's a great masterclass. It's about 40 minutes of your day, but it's really worth it.
Awesome. Oh, awesome. I love that. Well, thank you so much, Joseph. This was so fun. I can't believe how fast the time has flown by. And for everybody listening, if you love this episode of the Stay Introverted podcast, be sure to follow the show on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, wherever you get your podcast. And don't forget to give us a 5-star review, or 5-star rating, any review. And we'll catch you next time.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.